All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I'm your host, Cardin Ellis, and today we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders and his potential in the 2020 election. Cody, what do you think brought this video on?
Well, I think the biggest thing, personally, we're coming up about 10 days away from date of recording from the first debates for the Democratic primary. And it's going to be a big one. Every election I've been alive for, that's kind of when you find out who's for real. This isn't a salon cover puff piece. Like, this is you on stage with your ideas. So Bernie's been battle tested. He's done this before. He probably won the nomination in 2016. So everyone else, as far as I'm concerned, is looking up at him.
Also, we're very flattered with all the comments we've been getting. A lot of people are saying, how do you not have more subscribers with the quality of your content? Thank you, I think. But also...
always thank you for the support. Thank you guys. Been great.
Yes.
Awesome.
And we do actually try and respond and comment as much as we can because, fortunately, we don't get a lot of hate comments. We actually get a lot of really, really good, high-quality comments.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, we have a lot of friends that are YouTubers that say, I can't even bear to read the comments, but I've actually had some pretty good engagements with some of our fans. So anyway, a lot of people appreciated, and tell me if I'm wrong in this, Cody, but a lot of people appreciated our independent analysis of Andrew Yang and his chances in 2020 and winning the Democratic primaries.
Zero chance of winning the Republican.
Yeah, zero chance of winning the Republican. And according to his fans in Los Angeles, not very good chance of winning the...
Which, by the way, keep your eyes out. We're going to do a video after the debates going over again, revisiting with Andrew Yang and probably with maybe a couple other candidates. And you'll see some of you guys who saw in LA. You'll see yourself in that video.
Yeah. So a lot of people actually requested that we analyze whether or not Bernie Sanders can win in 2020, and not just the primaries, because I do believe that it's pretty much settled science that if he doesn't walk away with the nomination, there will be a communist revolution in the United States of America.
I don't know, but Hillary stole it from him in 2016. And you know what happened? Most people stayed home. Roughly 12% voted for Trump to spite her, and that was it. There was no marches in the streets, no demonstrations. Most of them were still registered Democrats. Like, I don't think it. I think if they steal it from him again, it'll be more funny than anything. Just the irony of it happening twice.
So it's too late to tell, but we are the only Republicans that predicted. Sorry, not the only Republicans. Sorry, I was the only person I know that had correctly predicted that the Republicans would lose to Katie Hill in the 25th District of California.
A local election out here.
A local election out here. And that's because I noticed the enthusiasm of the activists on the side of Katie Hill and not on the side of the Republicans. And she also won her own primary against extremely well-funded establishment Democrats.
We can get into this further. She won a primary against the guy who moved into the district, lost, stayed for 2 years, lost again, and then put his house up the next day. So that's what she was up against. A lot of money, but that's what she was up against. Full disclosure.
The point is, in this show, we love using facts and science, and we're not going to stick our neck out yet and say for a fact we think for or against, but we will show you the trends with the science, the math, and the facts of measurable quantifiers that are in favor and against Bernie Sanders as a presidential candidate in 2020. We're going to go over a lot of terms here, such as negative voting, the myth of the rational voter, and see what actually not just his chances are in the sense of, well, what are the chances, but the actual probabilities of repeated performance in 2020. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to reference an infographic here. A lot of people don't trust online polls, but don't forget they mocked the online polls in 2016 that had correctly predicted that Donald Trump would win. In fact, the only polls that correctly predicted the electoral outcome of Donald Trump, or at least positively correlated with his victory, were the online polls. All of the other polling sciences are outdated.
Well, dude, a lot of the polls, in my opinion, I don't want to get too off topic. I forget the term for it, but it's like something they do in like the military, where it's almost like a puff up your chest. You do this poll, oh, you got no chance. I'm polling at 85%. You don't even like. It's basically an intimidation factor.
Assumptive polling.
Yeah, it's the idea of like you're gonna kind of wear them down. It's kind of like, you know, like showing off your weapons and saying we got all these guns, you got no chance. When in reality, a lot of these polls are really, really deceptive, and they'll call somebody and ask them like, hey, so did you vote for Ronald Reagan? And they'll say no. Like, Donald Trump's got no chance. This guy didn't vote. You know what I mean? Like, that's how a lot of this stuff works.
So what you have to remember about politicians is they never tell you anything incriminating about themselves. They'll tell you everything incriminating about the other party and everything good about themselves that shows up in these polls. But they'll never admit a weakness. So you almost feel like you should never look at the information they present you, but look at the information they don't present you. And we're going to do this. In a July poll done by Fox News, it's a small sample size of only 1,000 people, and it is indeed an online poll.
Well, most polls they roughly take about 1,000 people.
Yeah. More credible polls will do 2,000, maybe 3,000. But at the end of the day, it's 1,000 people. And they were asked the question. Posed the question. I prefer living in a socialist country more so than a capitalist one. And of Trump voters, 16% agreed with that statement. Obviously, they're capitalists, most likely. And Clinton voters, over 50%, actually 52%. So you have to think 520 people out of 1,000, all right, to actually put that in person terms, in numerical terms, would actually prefer socialism over capitalism. Now, that seems like a big victory for socialism. However, we no longer live in a time in which people vote for ideas, but against ideas. In 2016, nobody voted for Hillary Clinton, but against Donald Trump. And nobody voted for Donald Trump, but against Hillary Clinton. If you read Brian Kaplan in his book, The Myth of the Rational Voter, it will open your mind not only into your own internal psychology and how you go against things to the voting booth more so than for things to the voting booth, but it'll help you look at this infographic. They've highlighted the question here of what do people agree with in order to incriminate Clinton voters as being pro-socialist. I get that, but let's look at the non-highlighted part of this poll and infographic. That amongst Trump voters, 63% disagreed with socialism, more than 19% of Clinton supporters disagreeing with capitalism. So a new way of asking...
Wait, what is that? Is that how it's written?
I said 63% of Trump voters disagree with this sentence, and 19% of Clinton voters disagree with this sentence.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So what this goes to show is that Trump voters have more disdain for non-capitalists than Clinton voters have disdain for non-socialists.
I feel like you're doing a little bit of the did you vote for Ronald Reagan kind of thing. Because, I mean, it's really...
No, but I'm going somewhere here. And what I'm trying to show is that the data shows that the Trump supporters have more hate for socialism than the Clinton supporters have hate for capitalism. And that's called negative voting. Now, let's go to this other article that we have right here, okay, from the Pew Research Center. Very reputable research firm, okay? I would say the reputable research firm that I pretty much trust the most, okay? And this is an article that we dug up actually from September 2nd, 2016, okay? And look at this headline and how much things have not changed, and we'll show trends from 2016, 2008, and all the other previous elections. Headline: for many voters, it's not which presidential candidate they're for, but which they're against. And they have this incredible infographic here that illustrates the negative voting effect. And it says negative voting more widespread than during 2008 campaign. And look at how our votes have shifted. In 2008, 25% were voting against McCain that were Democrats, and 68% said they were voting for Obama. Yet in 2016, only 8 years later, 46% were saying they were voting against Trump, and 53% said they were voting for Clinton. There was actually a small amount of people that actually felt they were voting for something. I guarantee you in the 2020 election, it will be the referendum against Trump, and all of the organizations are going to pull out all of the stops against Trump. It's going to be a completely negative campaign against Trump, and the question will be who has the higher negative campaign numbers. Elections used to be about getting people out into the polls to vote for you. Now it's about who can get out their base to the polls to vote against the opponents.
Well,
so you have to ask yourself, who hates the other party most?
This is
Do Trumpers hate Bernie more, or
hold
does
on,
do Bernie people hate Trump more?
I feel like we're losing a little bit something here.
Okay.
This was Donald Trump running against Hillary Clinton. I mean, these are probably I've only been around for so long. The most hated candidates by people in their own party as well. It's across the party lines.
Yeah.
That have ever ran for president in my lifetime. Who was really voting against John McCain? Like, realistically, who voted like, I hate Mitt Romney
my
so
only
much?
My only thesis is that we are moving away from being positive
I think
voters.
this might be an anomaly, is my point.
Okay, that's fair to think. And that's why I said it's too early. But I can't look at the way conversations are engaged in, whether it's online or in person amongst people. That's why we're such a rarity as an independent political talk show, okay? Because that like doesn't exist in the world anymore. But I see the conversation so shifting drastically and expeditiously, if that's even a word, towards what you hate instead of what you represent, that I think this next election will be who can send their base to the polls to vote against the other person.
But then I have a question for you, though. And how do you decide a primary? Are you hate voting against the other people in the primary?
Oh, yeah. All the SJWs are going to be hate voting against the establishment because he's not lefty enough.
I just pulled up right here. We watched this earlier. Watch a previous video. It just
this isn't whether Bernie Sanders can win the DNC's primaries.
But what I'm saying, though, if you're saying that people are hate voting, so then right now, are people hate voting against Sanders in favor of Biden? Is that what's happening? Because right now, Biden is head and shoulders. He's got a 10-point lead on Sanders and basically a 20-point lead on anyone else.
I think these pollsters flatter themselves. And they don't understand that when your average person that doesn't follow politics gets called up or participates in a poll, they don't want to feel stupid or look stupid. And oftentimes, they say yes or feel more comfortable just saying yes to a Democrat with a name they recognize. It's a strange pseudo-popularity contest more than it is a platform
contest. But then why is that going to switch in the general? Why isn't the general also going to be just that, well, I'm a Democrat and here's the Democrat who's
Because
running?
Primaries, I think, are mostly insider baseball. I mean, that's why the participation in the primaries is so much lower.
Well, but then would you say you're more arguing the point then that the divide from the parties is growing, which I think we are seeing, because like you're saying, like, when you're voting within your own party, there isn't the sense of my vote for Biden's an indictment on Bernie Sanders. It's just I don't know anyone else who vote for Biden.
Okay, basically what I would say is I think that generally primaries are populated by people that are more politically in the know.
But wouldn't they be the most
hold on, let me
motivated?
finish my sentence. Because primaries are generally participated, or because people that participate in primaries generally are people that are more politically in the know, they're going to be people that are more voting for things because they're aware of a party's platform or a candidate's platform. So I think it's more fair to say that right now in the primaries, people are voting for Sanders. But once the general population gets involved, and I think us political insiders oftentimes have to go out and play a little bit more street basketball in the park with people that don't know who these candidates are because they have a totally different psychology than all of us that are steeped in this kind of thing. And when it gets to the general election, they may not know if they like the Democratic nominee, but they sure as heck know that they hate Donald Trump. And the phenomenon of negative voting has grown over the years in both midterms and general elections. And I think with the onslaught that the media has had against Donald Trump, there's going to be a lot of people that don't know a lot about him other than they think he's a racist, they think he's a misogynist, and they think he has to go. So the hate vote, I believe, is what's going to determine the 2020 elections.
Just going back to the 538 page really quickly, currently his approval rating is 42%, which doesn't sound high, but you know what? For a president that gets only negative coverage, pretty good, man.
Because the SJWs loved him because he completely changed the DNC's party platform.
No, Donald Trump's approval rating is 42%.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah, and he's just tweeted out the other day that a big celebratory 51%.
But what you're saying, though, is like everyone hates him. He only gets negative coverage, and he's at like 40-50%. Like, I, in my opinion, to me, the idea of voting out of spite is really more what you do when you got nothing. Vote for me. Why?
Which SJWs do.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit close-minded to indict SJWs, and this is a political thing. Remember, more people voted against Hillary than against Trump. There's a larger percentage of voters going back to that article that said, I don't want Donald Trump president. Just I don't like him. I'm voting against him. I believe the exact numbers we're looking at here was against Clinton was 53 and against Trump was 46.
Okay. So I get all that. And like I said, it's too early to tell. I'm not putting my seal of approval on anything we say exactly right now. I'm just simply stating that due to the phenomenon of negative voting, I do see a 2020 election in which Bernie Sanders is the Democrat, Donald Trump is the Republican, and it becomes a passion play of capitalism versus socialism, in which socialism loses because the Trump supporters hate socialism more than the socialists hate capitalism.
I don't think it's that simple, though, man. I don't think it's just vote for Bernie's, vote for socialism, vote for Trump's, vote for capitalism.
Okay, well, then I guess that's going to be the, first off, that's the proof that we're an independent talk show right there, because you and I disagree on this. But I think it will literally come down to socialism versus capitalism, and America is more reluctant to embrace socialism than they are capitalism.
Well, how about this, though, really quickly? I want to break down something else in that same article about negative voting.
Go for it.
They go on and they break down by demographic who actually is doing this negative voting. So, again, 53% of people who voted for Clinton and 44% against Trump. This is mostly among, I guess, not Democrats, people voting for Clinton and against Trump. So, of supporters, 53% saw their vote is going to Clinton, and then 44% saw it is going to Trump. So more people were voting for Hillary than for Trump, right? But what gets interesting is, I don't know if interesting, but generally speaking, it's more men. Men are more likely, it seems, to be voting against than for. Inverse. Apologize. Men are more likely to be voting for a candidate than against, and women are more likely to be voting against a candidate than for.
Okay.
That's kind of interesting. Another really interesting thing, between 18 to 29-year-olds, only 29% of the supporters saw their vote as going for Clinton compared to 47%. So just to kind of make it simple, they break your ages down from 4 age groups: 18 to 29, 30 to 49, and 50 to 64, and then 65 plus. Donald Trump at 18 to 29 at 47%. That was his tied for highest people voting for Trump. It was, interestingly enough, the youngest bracket and the oldest bracket were voting for Trump, not against Hillary. With Hillary, the oldest bracket was voting for, and the youngest was voting against. And it's a straight line from the older you are, the more likely you're being voting for Hillary. The younger you are, the more likely you are to be voting against Trump. And I think it's, and then it goes down to college graduate and non-college grad, which, to be frank, no offense, I think it's garbage. You throw that out with all polls. But that is what fascinates me. Only 29% of millennials, which is really what 18 and 29% of millennials, thought they were casting a vote for Hillary Clinton. So 70% were casting votes against Donald Trump. That is, by the way, and
that's the phenomenon of negative voting that I'm talking about.
It's a complete anomaly, and it goes to 54, 57, 63. Okay. So it's with Donald Trump, it's steady down the board, a 47, 45, 41, 47. But
and that's why I'm saying I would view Donald Trump as winning, because the capitalists hate the socialists more than the socialists hate the capitalists.
I don't think it's that easy, though.
Okay. Well, then I guess we're going to find out. In fact, why don't you guys comment below? Let us know exactly what you think. Do you think Bernie Sanders could win in 2020? And if you do, literally try and give us a one-sentence thesis as to why you can. My one-sentence thesis is that due to the phenomenon of negative voting, I don't see the socialist winning in a capitalism versus socialism argument. If you guys have a one-liner that you could send our way, hey, we'll analyze it. Who knows? Maybe we'll make a video out of it. This is Problem Solver Politics.